You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May, putting you in the driver's seat to control your finances. Let's start the Practical Wealth Talk about alternatives to Wall Street.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Wealth Show. I'm excited to have a special guest on the line, Mr. Jimmy Vreeland of Joint Ops Properties. And what we're going to talk about today is his favorite subject. Mine is cash flow. His is real cash flowing with real estate. And so that's, when I do these talks, guys, I'm here to learn as much as I'm pulling out information from you all. So I'm really excited to be able to share his wisdom with you all. Say hi to my listeners, Jimmy.
Hey, everybody. And my favorite subject is cash flow, Curtis. I just think the easiest way to get it is through real estate.
Okay, I like that. I like easy. Easy is the operative word there. So it was funny. I had the privilege of meeting Jimmy. Where were we? Last month, we were in something called the Summit for Prosperity Economic Advisors in Park City, Utah. And so we got to hang out, and we were introduced by our mutual friend, the founder of the movement, Kim Butler, and, shared Jimmy and what they do together. And I said, I've got to introduce him to the people I know. So that's the purpose of this call, is to bring that out. So Jimmy, tell me a little about your background and briefly, and how you got to what you're doing now, and kind of what you and Bob are doing now. Bob is his partner.
So yeah, Bob is my partner. He went to the Air Force Academy. I went to West Point. So I spent 5 years in the Army as a Ranger, and then I got out and I did medical sales for another 6 or 7 years. And then about 3 years ago, I quit my job, and I've been doing real estate full time. To answer kind of where I got there, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad while I was in Afghanistan. I had gone to West Point for 4 years, and I was on my 5th year in the Army, and I was kind of done taking orders. It was really dragging on me. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm like, whoa, this entrepreneur thing, like, I should try this. You gotta be a self-starter, show initiative, be motivated. I'm like, wait a minute, I learned all that in the Army. So in Rich Dad Poor Dad, he basically says, hey, start with real estate and make sure your passive income equals your expenses, and then you no longer take orders from anyone. I was like, that's pretty cool.
There you go. That's right. And that's the thing. And, I was telling somebody, I said, I asked somebody yesterday, I was with a client, I said, have you read that? They go, yeah. I said, well, what's the first lesson in the book? Remember, rich people don't work for money.
Yeah. In the military, there's everybody's kind of searching for the hardest worker award. And in the real capitalist society, no one really cares how hard you work. It's nice. It might be a prerequisite, but it's what kind of value you can provide and what you can create.
Absolutely. And so they work for getting money working for them, and really working for leading us into real estate is not, because, what people don't understand, and we got this lesson when we're from Tom Worldwide, when we're out there, is that there's 3 types of income: earned, passive, and portfolio. And so with real estate, last time I checked, they don't take out FICA, FUTA, Medicare, all of that stuff out of your rents. Is that right?
Right. Tell me what you think about this idea. When I was in the Army and they were like, hey, Jimmy, go jump out of planes for us, I was like, cool. And they were like, hey, Jimmy, go live in the desert for a year. I was like, all right, cool. I'll do it. I'm in. Go get shot at, go get blown up. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm a patriot. I'll do this. But then I got into medical sales in the real world, and I started, making some decent money, and they were taking half of it. And they were like, okay, Jimmy, you go to work every day. We're going to take half of it. And at that point I was like, hell no.
Right. So you drew the line at taking half your money, not jumping out of a perfect good airplane or something like that.
Throw my body anywhere, but steal my money, I can't handle that.
So now you all have a really unique niche, I don't know how to say it, in the real estate space of how you do it. Tell us about that.
And I think the Austrians do the best job of describing it. But, they always say entrepreneurs, they go to underserved markets and create something that's never really been created before. So what we try to do is we are trying to serve customers and clients who we know the status quo is not touching. And there's a big gap, especially in the Midwest, of people creating safe, affordable housing for the retail purchase points of about a $50,000 to $120,000 house. Bankers won't touch it, and so you generally in those demographics in those neighborhoods, the only option is to rent. And so what we do is we do a thing called rent to own or lease options with houses. We take on good, hardworking people who have saved up some cash for a down payment, but they just can't qualify quite yet for conventional financing. And we say to them, hey, spend 3 years with us, and we'll help you fix your credit while you're putting in sweat equity to the house, and you're building up equity instead of just being a tenant. And then eventually you'll buy the house from us.
So that's fantastic. So you can kind of help them go from renting to, with your help, being a homeowner.
Right. And then if they've spent 2 or 3 years with us and they're good tenants and they just, for whatever reason, 80% of Americans still can't get conventional financing for a home. We will also occasionally will owner finance them where we'll put their name on the title of the house and we'll act as the bank. And so now they start getting the tax deductions for the interest and instead of just being a renter.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That is so you're helping them, they're getting ownership, they're improving their credit, and still as an entrepreneur, you've created value, and there's nothing wrong with making money by helping people improve their situation.
Curtis, I'm not an altruist. If I create value and create a trade with someone, I expect to be paid very well.
Absolutely. I'm with you 1,000%. Okay. And I always tell people, listen, you got to stop feeling guilty about making money, letting other people guilt you because you're becoming successful, because in a free market, the only way to make money is to create value for others. And so because, people vote with their wallet. And so if you're successful, if y'all are very successful, there's a lot of people in houses that wouldn't be in houses.
Yeah. After the crash and with Dodd-Frank, there's a severe shortage of people willing to finance houses for tenants or tenant buyers or homeowners in, the price points between $50,000 and $120,000.
Like you're out in St. Louis, right? And so out there, they're actually getting a nice house.
Me and my partner are horrible rehabbers. We're horrible at running crews. It just doesn't fit our personality. So we have to buy houses that just need lipstick on them. But we're cash buyers, so we can buy more than anybody else.
So let's talk about that. There's a couple things going on. You have the ability to, you're helping the people get into a property, but then you have a process where if people want to either be an investor in property or actually be the bank, there's also 2 ways that other people can, help them and profit from that process.
Right. So when we got into this, the other huge underserved market we saw are non-accredited investors that have a lot of cash laying around and don't know what to do with it, and people with W-2 jobs who don't know how to leverage their credit by buying real estate. So at the conference we're at, they talked about alternative investments. I don't really like that word. I think it's just investments that work, but they can't be scaled up by Wall Street, so nobody knows about them.
That's right. And let's talk about the first one first, because, one of the things I would tell people is say, listen, if you want $100,000 worth of equities or stocks, you need $100,000, right? I'll ask them, if I'm doing a workshop, I'll say, well, how much money do you need? And I go, it's not a trick question. And I said, $100,000. Yes. I says, well, if you want $100,000 worth of real estate, how much money do you need? Right? And really the true answer is it depends, but on a conservative, let's say 20%.
Yeah. So you're talking about the turnkey investments. So there's a big gap in the market. Like you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you start listening to podcasts, even at the summit, it's like get your money in the life insurance, then put in the real estate. But there's an underserved market between I want to invest in real estate, I don't want to be an operator, and if I'm not going to get a second job of being a real estate investor, how do I do it? So we step in and we say, hey, we're going to be your operator. We're going to be the chief operations officer in your real estate company, and you're going to be the CEO. So if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad and you get excited about investing in real estate, instead of then having to go to learn how to buy the property, rehab the property, market the property, and then sell the property, we do all that for you. And you just buy the house from us, and we stay in and consult with you.
So in other words, if they're lazy like me.
Well, I wouldn't say lazy. I would say you want to leverage your credit.
Oh, no. Let's do it. This is a better word. This is my wife. I tell my wife. Unhandy. How about that?
Right. I mean, I'm the worst handyman you'll ever meet. But you kind of like our turnkey buyers they're doing very well in their jobs, but they're a little bit nervous about, they want some passive income because they know active income comes with a high cost, a high time cost and a high tax cost. So, you could do what I did. I took on another job while I was still in medical sales of a real estate investor. And, it was very, very tough. Because like I said, I'm not handy, and I was in there laying tile and doing a horrible job at it. And then the tenants would complain, and then I was managing the property, and it just isn't that efficient. But say you're a financial planner like yourself, well, your unique ability is to be a financial planner, right? It doesn't make sense for you to then do what I do when my unique ability is finding lease option investments for investors. So by me leveraging what I do best and you leveraging what you do best, we create a trade.
That's right. That's how the world works. And it's great because if let's say you're listening to this and you have good income and you've got, decent credit, or at least why you need to work on your credit. But you're getting killed. I have a doctor. I was like, Curtis, I thought about you April, 15th or whatever. And I says, yes, you got to, look at some other ways to offset your high income as a doctor. And so one of the things that, when you own stuff like this, there's ability, get with your tax professional, of course, we're not giving tax advice, but to with real estate off some of that so that you can keep more money in your pocket. Is that right?
Right. The main advantage of real estate is it provides what I and people I work with call the 4 pillars of wealth, where you can get appreciation, cash flow, you can use leverage, and you can use and you have tax advantages. In a job, even if you're a high earning doctor, the only advantage you really have is appreciation, and that what your service is, you get paid more for your work. You might as well have a bullseye on the back from the IRS because they're going to take half.
And the cool thing is that once you have that strategy, if you start thinking strategically like that, and I tell people, let's be conservative. Let's say you could get, and you tell me if this is a good number or not, but let's say you could net $400 a month after all is said and done, after expenses and fees, $375, whatever. And let's say you could do one of those a year for the next 10 years, or 2 of those a year for the next 5 years. That's $4,000 a month. That's equivalent of having over $1 million in a 401k. In terms of cash flow that can be generated with that. And I would say in this market, it would be hard to do that. But when you have what you just described, if you're willing to work, save, leverage your credit, and then develop a team and build a portfolio just using a different asset class, that's where that comes in. But you have to change your thinking.
Right. You got to go from an accumulation mindset to a cash flow mindset. Like I think 400 for, most of our houses go for 75,000. So you're going to look to be making about clear $200 a month on I like to underestimate low when I'm on podcast stuff. But, I think I call it the strike number, like the number of passive dollars you need a month where you can just quit whatever you're doing. You can sleep all day if you wanted to, right? And, most of our turnkey buyers, they say about $10,000 a month. So if you start chipping away at that $10,000 a month, $200 at a time, it eventually adds up. And then just the peace of mind, even if like you're talking, you buy 10 and that's like $2 to $3 grand of passive income a month, that's still, that's a mortgage payment. That still helps you sleep at night.
Right. That's a nice vacation. That's a nice, because it's peace of mind because, I always tell people, most people are thinking security lies in a job. And I always tell people, look, you can get fired for one of two reasons, any reason or no reason at all. Right.
Right.
And so if you lose it and you don't have anything to fall back on, see, to me, that's bad planning. That's risky. So you have more than one way to have money coming in so that you can build, that's security. So there's no really such thing as security. There's only opportunity. So you got to again leverage your unique ability. I always tell people you got to think in terms of if this happens, then what? And how do you play? I played basketball in college, right? So it's like you gotta. My coach said you win with defense. So you got to play good defense, which is, having emergency capital, having, access to cash to make sure you're protected. I always tell people you're going to have one of three problems. You're going to live too long, you're going to die too soon, you're going to get sick and live. So you have to play defense. And then you go on offense or concurrently, at the same time. So
I have a mentor, he calls it building the moat around your castle.
I like that. I'm stealing that. Okay.
The guy's name's Mitch Stevens. Look into his stuff. He describes the moat theory very well.
So now, Jimmy, tell us about the other side. Let's say you've got money and you just you're tired of getting, 1-2% in the bank and tired of volatility of equities and you want to do something different.
Yeah. So then customers or clients who are looking for that, we set them up with private money loans. So when we acquire a property, we don't go to banks. We go to private lenders. And we give them 8% annual interest. A lot of the money comes from self-directed IRAs because I think buying houses inside an IRA is a pain in the ass. So private lending with excess cash or money and cash sitting around a self-directed IRA generally works best for these type of loans. And instead of leaving it in a qualified plan where you're making 4 or 5%, you lend it to us for 2 years and you make 8% on it. Or if you have cash value sitting around in your life insurance and you're not sure you want to do it, get that money working in two assets, inside the life insurance policy inside one of our houses.
That's right. So I really thank you for your time and spending time with us today. Hey, thanks for listening. And so listen out for the Practical Wealth podcast where we really try to teach you the truth about money. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.